and welcome back to Drive Time Marketing, the show where we help casino marketers turn strategy into action and insights into impact. Today, we're going to look at one of the most powerful and often underutilized tools in the marketing arsenal: email.
Email.
Because let's be honest, a lot of casino marketers are still treating email like it's 2005. They batch, blast, and hope for the best.
Yeah.
But what if I told you that email done right could be your highest ROI channel? And that's where my guest today comes in. Andrew Kordek is, quite frankly, the expert in email marketing. He's helped some of the biggest brands in the world transform their email strategy, not with gimmicks or magic tricks, but with tested, scalable, data-driven frameworks. And if you've ever heard him speak, you know he brings the truth, the tips, and just enough tough love to get you through.
Oh, Julie, you're making me blush. I'm like starting to blush, but thank you. It was great.
So Andrew, welcome. I'm so glad to have you here to return
Yeah.
the favor, because you've had me on Marketing Never Sleeps.
Yeah. Yep.
Do you want to tell our audience a little bit more about yourself?
Sure. So I am what's called the quadfecta of email marketing. I've run email programs on the client side. I've owned my own agency. I've been on vendor side, and now I have a small consultancy in my retirement years just to sort of keep my mind occupied. So I've seen it, done it. Nothing's going to shock me in the 26 years that I've done this. But, there's one thing I always kind of say to everybody is that, email marketing on the surface, when you think about it, is relatively easy, right? I mean, you got a bunch of people and you can send email to, and hopefully they respond. But there's a lot more nuanced to it, right? There's so much more that can be done. And the evolution that I've seen over the last few years, actually over the last 5 to 7 years, is pretty transformative. And marketers sort of have to keep up. So if you have the mantra of, well, we've always done it that way, you might be left behind. And hopefully, when I bring this sort of tough love to people, it's not because I want to offend them or because I want to say how bad your baby looks. It's literally like, hey, I've seen this, and I've seen through hard work, people really do amazing stuff and transform their email program and continue to do so over the years.
So let's start where a lot of our listeners are, right? They're typically short-staffed.
Yeah.
And they depend most of the time on frontline teams to collect email addresses. And that's the doorway to our email programs, right? If they're lucky, they have someone consistently manage email at all, but usually it's somebody sharing that with another duty. What's the biggest missed opportunity you see in industries like ours, where we're short-staffed like that, when it comes to email?
Well, first of all, I think you have to understand that when you get an email address, whatever method you use, right, that's the golden ticket. They're giving you something that would be their digital social security number. And so you kind of have to treat it like it's gold. And some of the big things, and I get it, right? Email acquisition on the surface is somewhat easy, right? How easy is it for me to ask somebody, give me your email address? Right. But it's another thing that if you say, hey, give me your email address, and then promise nothing and deliver everything, that's a whole different aspect. So how are you going to set it up? It's almost like when you and I meet, right? You and I can meet on the street, but then if I just start to overwhelm you with stuff and not really tell you what's going on, and before you know it, you're overwhelmed by my emails because I really haven't told you anything. It's a little unnerving, right? In fact, you might piss some people off. So the biggest mistake I see is that you can get 100,000 email addresses, or you can get 10,000 and do it right. So what I'm saying is sometimes volume or size doesn't count in this arena. It really is what you do with it. And not parade around and say, we've got this big list. One of the biggest things that I've said to clients over the years is, how do you want to do your email program? How do you want to acquire somebody and then treat them like they are the golden ticket, right? In the things that you do. Let's not think broad-based. Let's think how personal we can get into all of this. And oftentimes people take a step back and they say to themselves, well, wait a minute, what do you mean, how do I want to do this, right? I just want email addresses because I want to promote something.
Right.
And that's not how the mindset of today's today's consumer, today's person in and itself feels about people that they deal with, that they give their digital social security number to.
Okay, well, let's take the next step now. We've
Okay.
gotten 100,000 or 10,000 or
Yeah.
1,000 email
Yeah.
addresses.
Yeah.
You were part of our webinar series last year where we talked about winning email strategies.
Right.
And you said something that really stuck with me. You said your welcome message is the digital front door to your brand.
Yeah.
What should
Yeah.
every casino be doing, bare minimum, to make that first message count? And I know that you've seen samples of good, samples of bad, samples of evil.
I think the first thing is, how do you want to welcome them to your program? What do you want to tell them? What's your promise to them?
Mm-hmm.
So do it quickly, right? Within the first, people say in most immediate way possible. Well, sure. I mean, in near real time or in real time, you're going to give them something, but definitely within the first 24 hours. That first email should basically welcome them, not just a welcome like, hey, thanks for signing up, Julia, and we look forward to doing that. Welcome them as if you're welcoming them into your home for a party, right? And tell them, here's what you can expect. This is where you lay your coat. This is where the hors d'oeuvres are. This is how we are going to do our email program to you. Here's what you can expect on these specific days. Here's what you're going to get. And here's some feedback that we would love to hear from you. Think about it as a relationship, because we often look at an email address as some digital number, right? And say, well, that's sign up number 10,411, but we don't necessarily think about that these are people on the other end. And so what I look at is, like, you meet people in your business relationships, right? You don't want to overwhelm them and shake their hand and jump on their back and tell them how great you are. Avoid that sort of thing. We as marketers want to tell them everything. I call it the marketing barf, right? Tell us everything about there is to know about your casino and everything there is and how great we are. And you know what? People are like, like, don't tell me how great you are. Tell me what should I expect? People want to make this connection with you. And the only way to connect it is to not, the only way to do it is to do it over a period of time. That could be in your first welcome email. It could be one or two emails later. But oftentimes what I see is I'll get some generic welcome email like, thanks for signing up. Here's everything that we have to have. And then I get thrown into a cadence of 3 times a week, 5 times a week, 2 times a week. And it's overwhelming. Like, you know everything about your casino, what you do, how you do the things that you do on your end. Guess what? They may not. And the part of that is the education process that you have. It's not a stupid idea, because you may know everything, but they don't. And imagine that that's how you want to do. Imagine you're having people over to your house for that party, and where you want to take them and guide them through so they have a really good time.
I think that's very interesting. I mean, I've heard you say this before, that email isn't a channel, it's a relationship.
It is.
And what you just described is exactly that. And I know that, when I work with properties and we think about a new restaurant, we think about what's the experience we want people to have from the minute they walk in, right? Your digital front door, when you greet them, when you sit them down. And I think maybe it's the same process, though I think it's not a muscle that we're very used to when it comes to a digital space. How do we create that environment in a digital space?
Yep.
I think that's a big challenge for marketers.
Absolutely. And the best thing you can do is automate. Automate. This is all about you whatever system you use to send an email. You need to automate, whether it's your first email or your second or your third email, introducing who you are and what you guys are about. And I'm going to say this, and I'm going to say this very, very nicely. The first email experience should never, and I'm going to repeat myself, never, ever be owned by somebody in IT. Look, I love you, IT folks. Y'all are great. You make the systems run, but they shouldn't be in charge of their first email for you guys. It's just not possible. They don't have the ability to do that. And oftentimes I see that. I see IT departments owning it because we have our own internal systems to send an email out, and we're not going to use our email service provider to do it.
Yesterday I was on a call and somebody said, how many of you experience where people say to you, oh, just send an email out? And that often becomes the downfall of that relationship that we tried to build, because we're sending things out. And this was a B2B discussion, not B2C.
Okay.
But I think it could fall the same way. We often think, well, email is free, right? That's why we're trying to go away from hard physical mail, because it's free.
Yep.
And so we don't often put the same value as when we put a stamp on something.
So I'll make an analogy. When someone says to me, right, let's just send another email out. Oftentimes the people that say that tend to be the people that are most vocal, right? Like, oh, I just get this email from these guys and I get like 7 a week and it's just so annoying. And then you ask yourself, well, what happens if I came and ring your doorbell every single day and said, hey, come on in, free player. Hey, come on in, we're having specials. Like, that would piss you off, right? You get this negative impression of the brand. And so when someone says, let's just send another email, it's almost as if we're giving up, right? We are just saying, well, because we can send another email and press the button and it's really free to send email to 1 or 100 or people, you got to think there's another human being on the other end, and you don't want to ring their doorbell too many times with the same message just for the sake of quote unquote bookings or revenue or money or whatever. You got to think that the relationship is, you don't want to piss your friends or your people that you know off.
I mean, I think all of this has really been, the focus is the relationship, right? How do we get your digital ID? How do we welcome you? How do we continue that relationship?
Yeah. Think about it like your social, right? So if you think about your social department, whatever social channels you are on, right? It's part of that relationship. People like to interact. People often say, well, gosh, if I post something on Instagram of something, people comment. Well, people are commenting on the emails that you send. You just may not know it, right? Like, oh my gosh, somebody else is sending this. Or, hey, this is a great email. I feel real good and I want to come onto the property and do that. And think about it as that social interaction. And that's how email can bridge that gap, right? And so if you're not like this with your social department, or if you wear many hats in the organization and you're not lockstep with your social messaging or your strategy, man, that's a huge miss. You got to integrate the two because they work extremely well together and they can play off of one another.
So as casino marketers, there are a few skills that we have that I should be honest, I don't really know that I've seen them as forward facing in other industries. One is how we chop up data and segmentation, and then how we test. So I want to ask you what you think. How do you think casino marketers can get started with basic segmentation when it comes to emails? And then I want to talk about testing things, testing subject lines, testing, bullets versus text. What should we be focusing on?
First thing you got to do when it comes to segmentation is don't freak out. You read about all these different things, about all these fantastic, terrific things that other people are doing when it comes to segmentation. It's overwhelming. And at some point in time, it makes you feel bad, right? Like, I'm not doing any of this. My gosh, if I start. So the first of all is don't freak out. The second of all is to say to yourself, what do I want to learn from segmenting? Our best, our worst, our most engaged, our high value. What are we doing and how are we going to message differently? Someone once told me I have 3,200 segments. I'm like, oh, that's great. 3,200 segments is awesome. What's the message difference for those 3,200 segments? I'm a big fan of 5. Start with 1 or 2 segments and test into those. Don't go more than 5 unless you've got some super dynamic creative that you can
Mhm.
have all these differentiation of messages. So when it comes to segmenting, segment it into a couple of different things as the things that you want to learn. And then ask yourself, how is the difference of what I'm going to message? So as an example, if I'm part of the loyalty program and I'm somebody that's approaching that next tier in the loyalty program, how am I going to treat them differently inside that creative? How am I going to message to them that they're close to the next tier level? Or somebody that maybe that just joined and they don't understand the
Right.
tier levels, right? And explaining to everybody. Those are different segments right
Right.
then and there. Somebody that has never done anything in loyalty or just signed up, or somebody that's going to that next tier. So I would start slow. I would ask yourselves what are we going to gain by segmenting? Because there are stories of people not segmenting and actually gaining. But
Right.
the way they do that is through testing, right? And you want to talk about testing. Testing is overwhelming, right? You hear again stories of people doing multivariate testings and all this kind of stuff. Stop. Let's start focusing on just ones that you can have control over. But you got to say to yourself, what's my hypothesis? What do I want to learn in
Okay.
this thing? Right? Like if we do a test of a subject line that's one urgent versus warm tone, those have to be completely different. Oftentimes I see in testing, people are like, well, I just want to change the percentage to a dollar sign. Well, okay. It's not huge, right? But there has to be enough change in order for you to have a winner. So when you start thinking about a hypothesis, you have to ask yourself, okay, what do we want to learn? And then how hard is it for us to pull off? So if I'm doing a subject
Okay.
line testing, um, I'm going to want to make sure that there's going to be a big enough disparity, whether I'm calculating open rates, click rates, return rate, on premise rates, whatever your KPI is, and ask ourselves, what are we going to do that's going to make the biggest impact to our business? And then how hard? I mean, like how hard is it for us to pull it off? Because in some cases and
Right.
in some places, it's hard. It's hard. It's hard to do that. So start small on both fronts. But I'd love a follow-up question from you because I could talk about testing and segmentation all day.
Well, there's a lot of levers people think are magic bullets, right? Let's
Hmm.
talk about those magic bullets for a bit.
Yeah.
And I hear, I listen to podcasts, I read things, and there's always something. Today it's initial cap everything. Then it's, all caps, one word, add an
Yeah.
emoji here, add an emoji there.
Yeah.
I think that for the longest time it was using somebody's name in the subject line, and then
Yeah.
recently I read that's not really a big thing anymore.
Yep.
So what are the magic bullets, if any? And I know that magic is today and not
Yeah.
necessarily a week from now.
Well, so I would say from a magic bullet perspective, there kind of isn't unless you have a library of what you've done before in the past,
Mm,
right? For especially around subject lines. But it's interesting you mentioned this because just this morning I started looking at my inbox around casinos and the things that they're sending. I'm going to give you one guess, Julia, as to tell me if you can think of one of the top three words in the subject line, what would they be? Because I did this. Think
free,
of one.
free, free play,
No,
right?
it wasn't
No,
there. No. The top three subject lines had the following three words, and this is just over the last 4 or 5 months: win, stay, play. Okay. So someone would say, our competitor, the competitor casino down the street, or people that we know are part of both of our loyalty programs and come visit us, are using this word. They're using the word play. Let's do it too. We don't know if it's working or not. You have to be the one to set up your silver bullets and to say, we understand, and that's part of testing, right? Is having this library of things for you to say, what is working or what has worked or not worked in
yeah,
the past, for you to create something. Yeah, everyone loves emojis, right? I don't know if they work for certain casinos or not, right? Different properties have different tones in the things that they do.
exactly. I
Think
was going to
about
say it's probably related to their brand.
think about your brand for just a
Yeah.
moment. Is it serious? Is it fun? Is it playful? Do you have tons of entertainment options? You know, and one of the things that I looked at in my inbox, and this is, I wouldn't use the word sad, it's sort of disappointing. I started looking at the most recent holidays that we had, Memorial Day, and then we're recording this right before 4th of July. Leading up to all of that, there was no mention. In fact, and I'm not going to call them out. It's just not who I am. But in their subject line for the 4th of July, they use the word holoplay. And cool, right? Very cool, right? It's cool, but it's not what we're about, right? And so as you think about testing and subject lines, how are you leading up to events and how are you messaging? How are you toning that out to the people? And that goes back to the beginning, right? Like the welcome email and doing the things and establishing that relationship, but nothing was mentioned about Memorial Day and the things that people do to honor what that day is about, or
Yeah.
4th of July, right? And so I encourage everybody that is in your subject lines as you test going in to large holiday weekends or entertainment venues or free play or staying on premise, right? That you kind of play with that and then do what I call a 10-10-80 test. 10% get the control subject line, 10% get the test subject line, and don't do it immediately. Don't wait like 2 hours and then push the winner out. Ask yourself, give yourself at least 6 to 7 hours before you establish the winner. And the winner, I don't know, do you want to base it on opens? Do you want to base it on clicks? Do you want to base it on, like what? Like what are we testing here? I know we're kind of all over the board, but what I wanted to point out is some of the things that I'm seeing in my inbox from the 150 plus
Yeah.
casinos around the US that I see and that I'm getting emails from.
Well, I think that 10-80-10 process is something that you could use as a testing format, even if you're using a tool that doesn't allow you to create an A option and B option.
Totally.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Great tip. Great tip.
I want to go back to one thing that you had mentioned, Julia, and it was really interesting where you were talking about just sending another email. And one of the things that, and this is not a small plug for iPost, but I want to mention that some of our clients who are casinos use this tool that we import a live feed into our emails. It's in a specific part of the creative that has all the events that are coming up. Because oftentimes when people are like, let's send another email, you've got the email person, right? Or the person in charge of email go, oh my gosh, it'd be really tough. And I got to put all this stuff in. If you have something that's a live feed, right, that's coming from your site and saying, here are all the entertainment options, here are all the dining options, and it's being pulled in dynamically, well, then, yeah, sending out just another email might work. And it might actually save some time. That goes around the automation. That goes around the automation thing. But that's when you start talking about automating the relationship and the testing that I think most casino marketers, some do really, really well, some don't because they're intimidated by it, and you shouldn't be.
So this wasn't on my list, but you made me think about something.
All right.
Templates. And the fact that a lot of casinos will design a look and they'll use it consistently every single day, every single week, every single month. Where does, I guess the question is there a decaying factor in the effectiveness of that template? How long do we expect customers to not think, oh, this is the same thing?
Yeah, it definitely is. There's a time limit put on it, right? I think if you have 3 or 4 very simplistic templates that you use, right, that are either geared towards free play or play versus the stay versus entertainment, if you have the ability to do that, versus other things like a social media integration and what's going on, or philanthropy or volunteering or staff. you should have anywhere between 3 to 4 specific templates, and they're not hard to build. Like they
Right.
really aren't. If you've got a very locked down, really good system in your email service provider, it just takes a little bit of time and some designer chops to do it in there.
Yeah.
And then you can utilize it. One of the other things that I'm seeing is that sometimes the templates are, for the lack of a better word, kind of boring. And what I mean by that is they just throw a bunch of images in there
Mhm.
and they're image-based emails. And unless I have my images turned on, and I have every single one of the emails I get, I have images turned off just because I want to see it. It's almost as if you're just cutting out a flyer, right, and sending it to me in my inbox. You should have anywhere between at least 2, definitely 3 or 4 that you can choose from, that you have the ability to manipulate or move content around so that it doesn't get stale. I mean, if you guys went to a store, right? And everything in the store was exactly the same, notwithstanding grocery stores, but everything in the store was the same all the time, year round.
Yeah.
How bored would you be with it?
Yeah.
I mean, just think logically.
Okay. So now, Andrew, a little
Yeah.
fun. It's time for a little segment we just started called Fan or Flop or Fix. I'm going to
Yeah.
throw out a few email marketing practices and you tell me if you're a fan, as in keep doing it. If you
Yeah.
think it's a flop, so hard no, stop it. Or if it just needs a fix.
Got it.
Ready?
Yep. Go.
Sending the same message to everyone in your database.
Fix.
Using emojis in subject lines.
Fix.
Sending from a generic email like marketing at or offers at.
Fix. And here's the thing, everything is fixable, right? Like I'm a fan of emojis, but you have to fix it sometimes. Maybe I'm taking fix a little bit out of context, but sorry, go ahead.
Trigger-based emails.
Fan.
Okay, and this is one that a mutual friend, Jay Schwetterson, has a comment about how often to send emails. How about sending only once a month or rarely because we don't want to bother them?
Flop. Huge flop. Flop. Can't tell you how big of a flop that is, right? Look, you're not a nuclear power plant or the local lighting, power lighting people, right? That has like a digital newsletter that's like, hey, Julia, let's talk to you about your wattage usage. Like, no, you're a casino. You should be fun. This should be a fun aspect. Sending once a month, you're gypping yourself. Sorry, flop.
You also then send a huge long email that nobody wants to go through.
Right.
Right.
But look, I'm going to say that a majority of marketers today have digital ADD. We can only consume as much information as we possibly can. And if we have to just sit here and take my thing or do this on my phone just to get to the bottom,
yeah,
you might want to reconsider, or at least, for the lack of a better word, test link, right?
Yeah.
Short versus long.
No.
I'm a fan either way because I've worked with hundreds of brands that it works either way.
Yeah. Well, Andrew, this was such a valuable conversation. I think you've given every listener and viewer at least 3, 4, 5 things they can start doing this week to improve their email program and maybe even fall in love with email. And I think that's what's probably missing in a lot of cases.
And everybody, if you don't believe that I have not fallen in love with email, that's my license plate. So
if someone wants to learn more from you or work with you, where should they go?
Go find me on LinkedIn. Just Google, find me on LinkedIn, and I will help you the best I possibly can. But I'll also expect honesty, right? Like I don't beat around the bush.
Well, I'll include a link to your LinkedIn profile and also to your Email Never Sleep, Marketing Never Sleeps podcast.
Yeah.
And to everyone listening and viewing, if you've been sleeping on email, it's time to wake up. This isn't just a channel. It's your most direct line to customers. So you need to start treating it like it matters. Thanks for joining
Perfect.
me, Andrew.
You're
And
welcome.
thanks everyone for listening in. And
Thank
until
you.
next time, keep marketing.